Okay, so like the future of work, right? It's kind of like, when you're watching one of those nature documentaries, everything's beautiful and all that, but there's this undercurrent of like, oh, something's about to get eaten.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like the rules are changing right in front of us.
Right. One minute AI is writing poetry, the next it's coding websites and making lattes. It's a lot, even for those of us who remember floppy disks, let alone built a career around them.
And that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive. We're going to break down some advice from Dan Coe, who's all about helping people navigate this new world of work.
And just a heads up, Ko is very big on actionable strategies, and he really doesn't sugarcoat anything, which honestly, I kind of appreciate.
Me too. He gets straight to the point, like with this whole entry-level job thing. He basically says it's becoming extinct.
Extinct. Like, gone. That's a little intense, isn't it?
Well, he makes you think. When you see how fast AI is changing everything, even those traditional entry points like internships, you have to wonder, are those going to be around much longer?
Okay, that's a little unnerving, especially if you're just starting your career or even if you're midway through. How are we supposed to be learning and building our skills if those entry points disappear?
Well, this is where Coe gets kind of radical. He says traditional education, the kind we all grew up with, might actually be holding us back.
Wait, really? Why? How so?
He says it's because of the way it's structured, this emphasis on specialization. Doing what you're told it doesn't prepare you for the kind of adaptability you need in this new world of work. He even compares it to, and this is going to sound harsh, he compares it to the training of slaves.
Wow. That's, yeah, strong statement.
It is. But you see what he's getting at, right? It's like we're conditioned to think about work in a very specific way. Good grades, get a degree, get a job, climb the ladder. And he's saying, what if that ladder is gone?
Okay, so if the ladder's gone, what are we supposed to do? Build a new one?
He thinks the future belongs to something he calls the one-person business.
Wait, hold on. Does that mean everyone has to be an entrepreneur now? Because my landlord's not going to accept rent payments in the form of like my homemade sourdough, which I'm just going to say is not ready for prime time.
No, that's a common misconception. He's not saying everyone needs to be the next tech CEO. It's more of a mindset shift.
Okay, so what does that mean? What is the one-person business mindset?
It means recognizing that you have unique skills, maybe even passions, that you can use to create value for others. It might not look like a traditional job, but it's about using what you've got.
So it's not necessarily about launching a company, it's about building something valuable with your expertise.
Right. Like creating an online course,
hmm
offering freelance services, building a following around something you love. There are tons of possibilities.
He talks about this idea of being a deep generalist, which feels a little, I don't know, contradictory. How does that fit into all of this?
That's where it gets interesting. Coe argues that instead of being super specialized in one tiny area, the future belongs to people who have a breadth of knowledge and some really strong skills in a few key areas.
Okay, I'm following, but can you give me an example? How would that actually work in the real world?
Sure. Let's say someone's really into, I don't know, cooking. Maybe they're not a chef or anything, but they really know their way around a kitchen. But they're also good at photography, and they love social media. So instead of just being a good cook, they could combine those skills, create a food blog, maybe even teach online cooking classes, even develop their own spices or something.
So they've got this core passion cooking, but they've got these other skills, and they're using those to build something bigger.
That's it. They're a cook, a content creator, a photographer, a marketer, an entrepreneur. And that makes them adaptable, which is what you need in a world where specialization can be limiting.
This is all starting to make sense. So we've got this shift from traditional jobs to this one-person business model, and we need to be these deep generalists. But how do we even learn those in-demand skills?
That's the cool thing. Coe is a huge proponent of self-education. He talks about things like marketing, sales, writing, critical thinking. Those are skills you can learn by doing, by being willing to experiment.
Right, they don't really teach you that stuff in school. But where do we even start? Especially with something as broad as, like, marketing, it can feel pretty overwhelming.
You're telling me. But that's what's so great about Coe's approach. He breaks it all down into manageable steps. And that's exactly what we're going to do next.
Right.
Dive into some specific skills and strategies you can use to future-proof yourself.
So wait, are you saying instead of being scared of robots taking our jobs, we should be like taking notes from them?
Hmm.
Because learning new skills is definitely feeling like the upgrade right now.
It's funny you should say that because Coe actually talks about how AI can be a really powerful tool for anyone building that one-person business.
Really? Because I gotta be honest, that kind of goes against everything I thought I knew about AI. Isn't it the thing we're trying to, like, future-proof ourselves against?
See, that's the old way of thinking. Coe's point is that AI is really good at all those, repetitive tasks that most people hate doing anyway.
So, like, all the spreadsheets and emails and scheduling stuff.
Exactly. All the stuff that sucks up your time and energy.
Okay, so imagine if you could hand all that off to AI.
Right. And that frees you up to focus on the things AI can't do.
Like what? Give me an example.
Like the stuff that requires creativity and strategy and complex problem solving.
The things that actually require, like, a human brain.
Yep. AI might be able to write a report, but it can't come up with the ideas for the report.
Okay, so it's not humans versus robots. It's more like humans and robots working together.
Exactly. And Coe even says, he's like, there will always be new problems to solve.
Which humans are really good at. I mean, it's kind of what we do.
It's in our nature to innovate and push boundaries and all that.
That makes me feel a little better. But let's get practical for a sec. What are some of those skills Coe says we should be focusing on? Like, if we want to thrive in this new world of work.
He talks a lot about content creation, things like writing, design, video editing, that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah. It feels like everybody's trying to get their attention online these days.
And that's why those skills are so valuable.
Yeah.
But it's not just about, like, picking any old skill and going with it.
Right, because follow your passion only gets you so far if your passion is, like, collecting vintage thimbles or something.
Maybe there's a huge market for vintage thimbles. You don't know. But the point is, you've probably developed some valuable skills along the way.
Okay, I see what you're saying. It's about looking beyond the surface.
Like maybe you're amazing at researching and authenticating antiques. Maybe you've learned how to restore delicate objects.
And those skills could be valuable to other collectors, maybe even museums.
Right. It's about connecting the dots.
I like that. So it's not just about thimbles, it's about the skills you've developed along the way.
And maybe you combine that knowledge with, say, photography or writing, and you create this amazing blog or even a book.
You're blowing my mind with all these thimble possibilities. But you're highlighting something important. It's about connecting those dots between your skills, even if they seem totally random.
Exactly. And then on top of all that, Coe talks about the importance of marketing yourself and your skills.
Okay, that's where I think a lot of people get tripped up. Marketing just feels so intimidating.
It can be, but Coe breaks it down in a way that makes sense.
Like what?
Well, he talks about the importance of building an audience, for one thing.
Which you can do through social media or email or even just by creating content that people want to share, right?
Yep. And he also talks about this thing called a sales funnel.
Sales funnel. That sounds kind of like businessy jargon.
It's not as complicated as it sounds. It's basically just the process of guiding people from, like, hey, I just heard of this person, to I'm buying what they're selling.
So like someone sees your awesome Instagram about restoring antique thimbles, they click over to your website, maybe they sign up for your email list, and then bam, they're a customer because you've got this killer online course.
Exactly. And the key is to make that whole process feel natural and engaging so people actually want to move through the funnel.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. But let's be real, building a business, even a one-person business, it takes work, right?
I mean, Coe talks about this whole build $1 million business working 4 hours a day thing.
Right. And it sounds great in theory, but is it actually possible?
Or is he just trying to get us all to quit our day jobs and become like professional thimble restorers or something?
It's definitely a bold claim, but there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. It's not really about working less, it's about working differently. Okay, so how do we do that? How do we work differently? So it's less about literally only working 4 hours a day and more about being smart with your time.
Exactly. It's about strategy.
Okay, I like where this is going. So what does that look like in practice? How do we make that happen?
Well, Coe breaks this whole thing down into stages.
Okay, hit me with those stages.
So, like, remember how we were talking about client projects? That's where it starts.
So you're saying, like, do some freelance work on the side while you're building your own thing.
It's not just about the money, although obviously that helps. It's about getting your hands dirty.
Building experience.
Yeah, but also making those connections and really figuring out, like, what works and what doesn't.
That makes sense. Testing the waters a bit. Okay, so client work, stage 1. What's stage 2?
So once you've got some experience under your belt, you're building your audience, you're fine-tuning that sales funnel, that's when you start to create what Coe calls, like, leveraged offerings.
Leveraged offerings. Okay, that sounds a little like, I don't know, Wall Street or something. What does that actually mean?
It just means you're creating something once that you can sell to a lot of people.
Give me an example.
So, like, instead of just doing one-on-one coaching, Maybe you create an online course that teaches people what you know.
Oh, okay, I get it. So you're not trading your time for money on a one-to-one basis anymore. You're scaling up.
Exactly. It's like writing a book or creating a digital product.
Mm.
You do the work once, and it can keep working for you even when you're not working.
Okay, that is kind of genius when you put it like that, but I still feel like I need a concrete example. Like, what would a leveraged offering look like for, say, our thimble expert from earlier?
Let's say they've been sharing their thimble restoration process online. They've got a following, people are into it. They could create an online course that teaches everything they know, package it up nicely, and sell it on their website.
So they're taking that knowledge, that expertise, and turning it into a product that works for them 24/7.
And because it's online, they're not limited by geography or anything.
They could literally be teaching people how to restore thimbles all over the world.
Exactly. And that's just one example, right?
Right.
The possibilities really depend on what you're good at and who you're trying to reach.
This is making me realize that there's so much more to this whole future of work thing than I initially thought.
It's not just about robots and AI. It's about taking control, you know,
Yeah. Building something for yourself on your own terms.
and creating a life that you actually love, that doesn't feel like a grind.
That's what I'm talking about. So much of what we've talked about today has been about this shift, this kind of paradigm shift from the old ways of working to something new, something more aligned with, well, us.
It's about recognizing that we have options, you know,
We don't have to just accept the way things have always been done. We can create something new.
and honestly, I think that's incredibly exciting.
Me too. It's definitely a little daunting too, but mostly exciting. So let me ask you, if work could be designed around your life, not the other way around, what would that look like?
Ooh, that's the question, isn't it? The million-dollar question. And it's different for everyone, you know, but I think just asking yourself that question, really sitting with it and seeing what comes up, that's the first step.
Yeah. And maybe it starts with identifying one skill you want to learn or one idea you want to explore.
Even if it's just a tiny step, a little experiment, that's how it all starts.
I love that because the future might feel uncertain, but it's also full of possibility. It's up to us to create it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Keep learning, keep growing, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.